Hello, welcome to Chapter 17 for Business Math called Services. This is Lesson 17.1 called Building Rentals. As always, make sure you are reading through the chapter. Look at the new concepts, the vocab, go through the examples it's giving you so that you understand not just how to complete the problems, but why. Why are we multiplying these numbers? Why are we adding? Why are we subtracting? What are we doing? The more you understand the what and the why, then the how will come quite a bit easier. And as we go to more application problems like the algebra or moving through the chapter, all the how do I complete these problems will fall into place a little bit easier as well, because you'll understand the whys of all of what you're doing. So let's go ahead and read this little summary here. We have your business may rent or lease space in a building on an annual basis. The rent is based on a certain rate per square foot per year. Your total monthly rental charge depends on the number of square feet that your business occupies. And then they give us our little formula here. So monthly rental charge equals annual rate times the number of square feet divided by 12. Why are they dividing by 12? 12 months in a year, right? They're not telling us that, but we can make that connection. Maybe without reading the textbook, you might be able to make that connection because we're talking about annual up here. So it just depends on whether or not you made that connection, but the book does explain it to you. So make sure you're reading so that you understand why they have these numbers in there. And the annual rate will be provided to you. So you're not going to necessarily have to figure the annual rate part out, but we may have to figure out the square foot, which is in fact what we're going to do in this very first table. So they tell us type of building, which is a little bit of extra information. It truly doesn't matter what type of building it is. The only time that might start to matter is if certain types of businesses may cost more based on risk of the building or something along those lines, but they're not going to make you get that intricate with this. They're just going to give you, pharmacy annual rate per square foot is $10.50. So we need to know how many square feet we have. The dimensions of the building are 25 by 40. So if you remember from, honestly, elementary, junior high, high school, lots of different math, we can calculate the area of a rectangle, which this is definitely a rectangle, one long side, one short side. So we can calculate this area by multiplying length times width. Okay, so we're just going to go length times width, and that'll give us the number of square feet. We're going to do that for each one of these. Boop, 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 boop. All right, so this first one, if we do 25 times 40, we get 1,000. No, I didn't take my calculator out. I had already done the calculation and I had it written down on my notes here, but you're definitely welcome to use calculators on this one. So I have 1,000 square feet for this pharmacy, and each one of these square feet cost $10.50. So, and that's per year, not per month, per year. Remember, we're going to divide by 12. So to get the monthly rental charge, we're going to take the $10.50, the annual rate, we're going to multiply by the square footage we just found, and then we're going to divide by 12. All right, so once we multiply on the top, and this is a decimal, and this is multiplication dot, sorry, put them a little close there. So we're going to multiply. Once we get that answer, then we'll divide by 12. Here, go ahead and, oof. So we have 1050 times, that was one too many zeros, 3, there we go, there's no commas on here, equals, all right, so there's my top number, I just multiplied the two, divided by 12, boom. So I have $8,750. Hold on, did I put too many zeros in there? Oh, why did I put 10,000? Silly me. This wasn't supposed to be 10,000. Oof, that's a big eraser. I'm just losing my crazy mind here. That was only supposed to be 1,000. There's 1,000 square feet, not 10,000 square feet. I'm just going crazy here. All right, so same thing, but going to be 1,000 times less. So 1, 2, 3 equals divided by 12. Oops, 12 is 875. All right, that's better. An $8,000 building would be pretty darn expensive. That better be a pretty darn big building, or in like some prime real estate or something like that. All right, so this is the monthly rental charge. So this is the idea. You're just going to multiply. You're going to get your square footage for each of these, and then you're going to plug it into the formula just like this. So change the annual rate based on what they're giving you. So instead of 1050 for the next one, you're going to put 675. And then instead of 1,000, you're going to put the new square footage that you just calculated based on 30 times 60. You're still going to divide by 12, remember. There's always 12 months in the year, so we're going to divide by 12 to figure out how much we're paying every single month. All right, so let's see. I believe we are doing the exact same thing down here, just in kind of word problem form. So let me see. We have the bargain barn is considering the rental of additional space at $5.85 per square foot per year. The space bargain barn wants to rent measures 150 feet by 150 feet. What monthly rent will bargain barn pay for the additional space? Okay, so we know the length and the width. They told us that. We know the rate per square foot per year. We just have to figure out, just like we did up here, it's just not a nice little table. But here's our first piece in the table. They gave us the annual square foot. Here's the annual rate per square foot right here. And then length and width. We just have to multiply these guys together to find our square footage. And then once we have our square footage, you multiply the annual rate by your square footage and divide by 12, just like we did up here in the table. Nothing tricky about that one. Same thing on the next one. I can already see they give us our measurements. They give us our annual rate per square foot. And then, of course, they give us a bit more of the information. Remember, a word problem is more about giving you context to the numbers, giving you kind of some meaning to the numbers, as opposed to just, here are some numbers and do some calculations. We get some meaning behind them. I was trying to get that sunburst really darn up there. So we just need to pay attention when we're reading word problems and make sure that we're looking for the important information. Okay, what do I need to know? Do I need to know that Brookman's has rented additional mall space to expand its toy operation? Not really, but it gives me a story behind these numbers. Now I know what I'm renting the space for. And then the space measures 20 feet by 40 feet and rents for $15.75 per square foot per year. Okay, so that whole sentence is important information. I really need to know what is the length and the width, or square footage if it's kind of an odd shape, but in this section they seem to be giving us all rectangles. And then I need to know the rate per square foot also. And then the question, what monthly rent does Brookman's pay for the additional space? So I need to know, what are they asking me to find? Pay attention to the question. Don't just skip over the question and assume that you know what to calculate. Pay attention to the question. What are they asking you to do? They're not usually too tricky in the business math worksheets, but every once in a while they do switch it up and ask you to do something different. So pay attention to that question. All right, let's look at this one because it is a little different. Topps Sports Shop is opening a store at the Eastland Mall. The rent is $8.95 per square foot per year, plus 5% of the store's gross sales. So that's a little different. We haven't had that yet. The area of the store is 2,500 square feet. So either they just didn't want us to calculate this one, or maybe it is kind of an odd shape, because buildings aren't always just a rectangle. Sometimes they are kind of different shapes, or multiple rectangles kind of pieced together, you know. So for whatever reason, they gave us the square footage on this one. If Topps has $526,000 in gross sales the first year, what monthly rent will it pay? All right, so we know that it's $18.95 per square foot plus 5.5%. So first, let's do the straight calculation we did up here. So we have $8.95 times 2,500 square feet. Okay, and that's just the straight square footage. But we have to now add 5.5% of the 526,000 that they made in annual sales because that's part of their agreement. So we have our square footage calculation and we have our 5.5% of annual sales calculation. We have to do both in this problem. Once we do this, so we're going to multiply, we're going to have a number here, and then we're going to multiply here. Remember to move this decimal. Do not just do 5.5 times 526,000. That's going to be a huge number. It's 5.5%. So you need to move this decimal. Go here, or silly me. Here it is right here. I need to go 1, 2, and move it over. So instead of typing in 5.5%, I need to go 0.055 in my calculator. Otherwise, you're going to get a number that's way too big. And then once you have your two pieces, you can add them together. Remember PEMDAS, you have to do multiplication before you can do addition or subtraction. So we have to multiply here, and then we have to multiply these two, and then we can add those two numbers together. And we'll divide by 12, just like we have been for all the other ones. Once we know the total annual rental amount, then we need to divide by 12 so that we have our monthly. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and let y'all finish that one off. You can, of course, type this all in your calculator. Be careful. Different calculators react differently based on how you type things in. So I would definitely, do them a piece at a time and write them out as you go. All right. I believe, let me check really quick. Oh, we do have an algebra problem on the next page. So let me skip over there real quick. All right. So number 7 and all right, number 7 is doing the same thing as number 6, where we have some square footage. We have an annual amount per square foot per year plus 5.5 or 4.5% of gross sales. So exact same thing we just did on number 6. You do the basic square foot calculation and then add in the 4.5% of their annual sales, which they do give you here, or gross sales, sorry. All right. Number 8, your company is looking for a new warehouse to store your incoming inventory at the Hurt building. You can rent a space measuring 2,500 square feet for $9.75 per square foot per year. At the main Plaza warehouse, you can rent a space measuring 3,000 square feet for $9.25 per square foot per year. How much is the monthly rental charge at the Hurt building? How much is the monthly rental charge at the main Plaza? Which location has the lower rental charge here? So we're going to do the same thing we've been doing in all the other problems with the exception of 6 and 7. We don't need to do that percentage calculation this time. We're just going to do the straight calculation we've been doing on all the other problems. We have our square footage for the Hurt building and our price per year. So we're going to multiply and divide by 12, and that'll go in the top box. Or I didn't mean to erase that. On the top line here. That's the Hurt building. In the main Plaza, we have our square footage and we have our price per foot per year, square foot per year. Again, multiply and then divide by 12, just like you have been. So then once you have your two amounts here, you just have to decide which one's cheaper, which one should I go with. It's not always just about the cost. Usually it has to do with location, where you want your building to be. But if you're looking at this just based on cost, which one is the better price? That's what they're asking you to do. So you just have to decide, are you going to go with Hurt building or are you going to go with Main Plaza? All right, let's look at the algebra problem. Siciliano's produce market is expanding to a second location. Their budget allows $5,000 per month to rent the needed $7,500 square foot, not dollar. What is the maximum that Siciliano's can pay per square foot on an annual rate? So remember, the monthly charge equals the price per square foot, per square foot, sorry, I know I'm kind of shorthanding that, times your square footage divided by 12. So we already have this. This is the formula, and it was just kind of a dorky way to write it, but it's this formula here. Monthly rental charge equals annual rate times number of square feet divided by 12. So here it is, just kind of written out a little shorthanded there. So their budget allows for $5,000 per month to rent. Okay, well, we already know the monthly rental charge then. So this is the why the why and the what come into play. If you just kind of understood the basic calculation there, multiply, divide, and you weren't really paying attention to what you're doing, you might get down to one of these algebra problems and get a little bit kind of frazzled by it because you weren't paying attention to what you were doing. So now we just have to use that same formula. Generally, that's what they do. You're using the same thing that you just learned. Might be something from a previous section. Since this is section 1, it's probably going to be this formula. And we just have to fill it in. And we're going to be missing a piece. And we just have to find that piece. So if we know the monthly rental charge, we know that it's $5,000. And that equals, they're asking us to find the maximum that Sicilianos can pay per square foot per annual rate. So we don't know this one. So I'm just going to go with a dollar sign. That's going to be my variable right now. I'm going to be a little funky about it. Times, we know the square footage. They told us that. They needed to rent $7,500. Okay. So I keep saying dollars there, 7,500 square feet. I don't know why I want to change that to dollars. And then we're going to divide by 12. Remember, 12 just stays the same. It's always 12 months in a year. So we have all of our pieces except for this one variable, which I made a dollar sign. And by the way, if that messes you up and you don't like a dollar sign, you can change it to an X or an S for square footage. I try not to do S's because I've been told my S's look like my 5s. I get a little sloppy when I'm writing these things out, and so I avoid certain letters just for my benefit. I also always, and I suggest students do this as well, avoid zeros or O's because they look like zeros. So if I put an O here, I might get confused and think that's a zero once I get started in the problem here. So silly little things like that. But really, you can use any symbol you want as a variable. It doesn't matter. It's just a placeholder. That's all it is. So to get started here, we want to get rid of this fraction. So we can start getting this dollar sign or this variable by itself. So if it's divided by 12, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 12. And what that does is it goes multiply by 12, divide by 12. Well, any number divided by itself cancels. So I end up with 12 times 5,000 on this side, and I'm going to let you guys do this calculation, okay? And on this side, I just have my variable times $7,500, like that. So now this is multiplication. Well, same thing here. If this was division and I undid it with multiplication, I'm going to do the same thing with multiplication. I'm going to undo it with division. So whenever you're moving things from side to side of the equation, you're always just undoing it. That's the main idea there is if it's multiplication, you're going to divide. If it's addition, you're going to subtract. So it just depends on what's happening there. And again, any number divided by itself cancels out. So on this side, I'm only left with my variable, my dollar sign, which is what I wanted because these canceled out. They actually become 1, not 0. 0 would make the whole thing, the whole side 0, because then I would have dollar sign times 0. Don't want that. Any number divided by itself becomes 1. Sorry, I said canceled out and didn't explain that all the way. So now all we have to do is our calculation on this side. We're going to do 5,000 times 12. That will tell us their total annual rental charge, right? So we're going backwards. Instead of dividing by 12 and finding the monthly, we're multiplying by 12 to find out how much they're going to pay annually. And then we're dividing by 7,500 because that'll tell us how much you're paying for each one of those square feet. Price per square foot. You can actually hear it in the name. So price is at the top. Per means divide. Square feet, there's 7,500 square feet. So price per square foot. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys finish that calculation off. Make sure you actually do the multiplication division here. This is not the answer. I hope that helped, and I will see you in section 2.